And I'll hand the mic back to Evan Miyazono for some closing remarks.
Thanks, Carla. We made it. Thank you all for joining. This has been fantastic. We started off with a great fireside chat talking about the existential risks, how to think about them, how some might try to solve some of these massive problems facing humanity, and transitioned into a great recap of solar punk and a bunch of fundamental principles related to commoning and commons. You can't have an event with commons in the title without some reference to Elinor Ostrom. And I actually hadn't heard of the Rochdale principles before. And so I was very grateful for that link and look forward to digging into that more. My background is in experimental physics. And so every once in a while, there was a clear, large gaping hole in the background that you would expect for the things that I should know, given what I'm doing these days. But it's always great to identify those and fill those in. After that, we had a fantastic talk from Andrew Critch. And it's worth noting, I put these slides together while the event was going on. I'm highlighting things here that are definitely not the most important thing for the talk, but maybe just some fun or interesting things that you might not have seen when these talks were going through, or if you're watching the recordings or missed the talks themselves, you might want to go back and check some of these recordings if these talks, if these aspects of the talks seem particularly interesting to you. Favorite highlights from Critch's talk include the idea that valuation of actions should be marginal utility functions or marginal value functions and not scalars. Fun anecdote, connection to source cred from Pooja's talk. There was a lot of talk about value vectors and not valuing things. The problem that many problems with governance, organizations, incentives being that we tend to value things as scalars because it's simple and easy, that scalar for usually being like a unit of fiat currency. And discussions around value vectors was one of the things that was connected to, and I might even claim led to the creation of source cred as a project. I also very much enjoyed that the talk on the S process is on the Survival and Flourishing Fund's website as the official explanation of what the S process is and how it works. I'm glad to see that this is funding the commons as functioning as intended, where we have mechanisms that are built, described, and then these the artifacts generated here become canonical artifacts for facilitating use and understanding of those mechanisms moving forward. After that, we had a wonderful perspective on all of the issues with scientific funding, both for systems at scale, in addition to longevity and some bioscience research specifically from Lada. And I was very inspired by some of the steps they're taking. I feel like the prearrangement with Geroscience to get negative results published is probably the best move that I've seen, or rather, of the things that I've seen that have increased my confidence around replication crises. I feel like that kind of arrangement is more impactful than most actions I've seen attempted. And so I was very pleased about that. And I included a link to adversarial collaboration because I hadn't heard of that before. I look forward to seeing if there are ways to implement that as a useful mechanism in any of the things that I'm thinking about. This was a pair of talks that felt very difficult to compress down in any way, but I loved the framing of networked goods. I think that this relates to some of the things I was saying many hours ago at this point about how the rivalrousness or excludability of some of these goods is very difficult for things like environmental aspects or knowledge commons, especially if your knowledge commons come with bit rot, for instance. And so having a human first, community first framing around how to think about these seemed like a very powerful set of memes to me for dealing with how we should think about the dynamics of the systems, these like highly complex systems of humans that are managing or supporting or trying to develop these commons, and also trying to build systems to support those interactions. I thought that the idea of like quantifying social distance and having non-transferable attestations was something that I would like to see in most reasonable versions of the future, the types of futures that I'd like to live in. And there were some fantastic concerns and questions brought up in the chat, and I look forward to having more of those discussions occurring in venues after this point. We had a summary from Adam Marblestone about focused research organizations and scientific road mapping, and I am consistently amazed by both the ambition of these projects, and of the progress they've made so far with 3 current FROs, or FRO-like organizations that are making significant progress towards some of these goals. Making more connections between the talks today, I would be particularly interested to see if we could have something like the speculation grants that you talked about used to specifically fund scientific roadmaps or blueprints, because I think that there's a serious capacity for planning toward the future being something that is very difficult to value initially, but whose value could be very clearly evaluated well after the fact once those predictions and plans have shown to be either true or generally useful. We had a very well-researched and fantastic summary of both a very important problem in, it often seems like it's an open source problem, but I agree with what Pooja said, that maintainership and the idea of keeping things from breaking instead of building new things is definitely a more generalizable problem. And between framing the problem, identifying and like a great taxonomy for current attempts, and identifying some future ideas for potential solutions, I think that this talk is a very exciting, or sets out some very exciting directions, and I look forward to following along. And the most recent talk that just concluded, Alex spoke about dominance assurance contracts, refund bonuses. I was familiar with dominant assurance contracts, but I was not aware of the potential synergies with quadratic funding. And it felt wrong to pick 3 representative slides from this talk, but I was just really fond of this revelation, and also of the academic rigor that Alex brings to these experiments. I think that that's something that I would love to see in more of the experiments that people are running about other incentives, and look forward to seeing that progress. That's the overall summary for the day. If you missed any of those talks, I would definitely encourage going and checking out the videos if they sounded interesting. And then the quick summary of day 2 is that we have overall, I would say these 3 general themes and a few talks, at least 2 talks on each of them. There'll be 2 talks on mechanisms for structuring funding and retroactively valuing public goods and common goods. There'll be some innovative modern attempts to improve both science and the web respectively, informed by past experience. And where I've included pictures on this, it's under the word or phrase that is specific to that particular speaker. So the speakers will be talking about the exact same thing, but they seem very related by these connections. And the last one is very diverse, but also I think really demonstrates the breadth of relevance of these types of tragedies of the commons or coordination problems. We'll be having 4 people speak about coordinating research planning and research funding, both in general and also specific talks for Earth climate and coexistence on the moon. Overall, I hope you really enjoyed the talks today. I hope you at least enjoyed them as much as I did, which would be a high bar. But overall, I wanted to include some links here. There are some links that showed up in the chat. Some of you might not have access to the chat at this point in time, or might be interested generally. There are 2 Discord links. One is here for the, I would almost say official Discord. It's the Discord that we intended to use for this event. There's also an invite down here for the Discord and channel specifically for Pooja's discussions of incentivizing sustainability of development. A couple of links that were shared in the chat. This is a link to this slide deck in case you want to follow these links and not act on anything. And if you're interested in various updates, at Proto Research is the Protocol Labs Research Twitter, and you can get more information there. And I hope to see you all tomorrow. Thanks.